Hello world. Today I want to talk about looking at space, at spatial design. And as a very low-key, very practical kind of example, I'm going to be using my own office space. Now, that means that today you're going to get a tour of my office. And I warn you, it is messy as hell. And there are several reasons for this. One is we moved here to the new house a couple of months ago, so we're not fully settled in. The second is we have a crazy daughter who's a lovely, but also a tornado of energy, and her destructive powers are great. So even when we're moving in, other things take priority. And the third is I'm a little bit of a messy kind of guy, especially if I don't stop myself. And I don't mind that things look messy where they're not seen. But today you get to see my office, and I'm going to explain why that's interesting to anyone but me as we go along. So first off, I'm going to switch to the other camera, and then we're going to go in. So here is the door, and the first thing you see is moving boxes, because these are still not taken care of. And that's me. So over here, a first bit of technical stuff. Here's a router for my internet. And one of the first things that I want you to know, even though I'm not going to show you, except here's a nice view of our garden, is that I actually have two independent internet connections. Because as somebody who works fully digital now, means that if one fails, then being able to shift to the other is pretty nice. So here's one wireless router. It's also connected by cable to my computer, even that's a little bit impractical. Now, this, and you can see, as you can see, the chaos in the room is pretty big when you look at it like this. This is where Sue sits, the jacket's mine. This is where Sue, my better half, sits and does her illustration work. So she has an office right next to mine. Here are suit jackets and shirts, and of course the Batman suit. Now, and there's just a lot of mess up there on the tables. This is not something I intend to keep that way forever, especially the empty Pepsi bottle. I do not intend to keep that, or the empty Pepsi can, but it's the reality right now. Now, if we look over here, this is where I sit. And this, apart from this, is showing this is my cable kind of a box and one of Saga's plates. But this place over here is a little bit interesting because first off, it gives you a feel for how my office is organized. I have a 43-inch screen. I have a 32-inch screen above that, which is really useful when I'm doing presentations because then I can have one screen this and show full screen presentations there. I have a lovely picture suit made of me as a wombat. And then there's a ring light number 1, ring light number 2. Now to get soft lighting here, and here we're already moving into the innovative, creative, weird, but real space. This is a shirt. I needed, at a short notice, I needed to create a kind of softbox effect for the lighting. And what did I do? Well, I grabbed a shirt because it created the right effect, even though it, of course, is not professional. Of course, it looks terrible. But since nobody sees it, it doesn't really matter. Now, my keyboard, I'm going to show you my keyboard. The reason for this is that, as you can see, a lot of the keys are worn away. Why is this interesting? Well, it's interesting because this is the keyboard I work with every day. I've done that for many years, and it's fine with me. I write significantly faster on this keyboard. I've done tests than I do on other keyboards. However, it also means that when somebody else borrows it, they're lost at sea because, well, where are you going to, yeah, that's there's the thing. And I mention this because it's very tempting to forget that we sometimes shape our tools. Not all of them. I don't shape a hammer, but some of our tools we shape. And then when we tell somebody else, oh, use my tool, then they can't because we've actually changed the tool so it fits us, or in this case, we've ignored that the tool has changed because it still fits me. And I find that an interesting point, that it's sometimes easy to forget that a tool to us that we're used to is not necessarily useful to somebody else, even though it should be in theory. Now, here's another piece of, I'm not going to call it innovation, but reality. And here's my Yeti microphone, which I use for recording. Here's a stack of books, The Innovation Cycle, written by Robert Kiss and Claus Raasted. This also serves, when I'm doing presentations, as a nice microphone stand. ring light here, and here you see another piece of very handheld innovation or very handheld practical solving a problem. Now, why is this there? Well, this, as you can see here, right now it's kind of hanging as a curtain, and just using a simple clip like this. Now, you're really getting the messy tour here, so I hope you appreciate that. This now stretches out the green screen, and over here at the other end, I can stretch it out as well here, and I can put something there to get like a nice even effect instead of this. This super handheld solution, but it works. Now I box myself in a corner, but here is my green screen, and the green screen actually allows me to do decent level video recordings. If we remove that, if we take it back to where it was before, then we'll be able to see here. Here is my nice shelf. And the shelf does a couple of things. One, it separates the room because behind it there's a bed. We'll get into why there's that in a moment. And it also means that this is kind of the view that you see when you're having a normal meeting with me. Then I get to use this to showcase who I am. Right now it's just full of stuff. Some of it will stay, some of it will go. The plant was one I borrowed from our living room next door, so she will probably get that back. But it gives me a chance to create a personal background so that when people have meetings with me, they not only get to see something that's less messy than kind of the moving boxes, but also I get to use this as my kind of showcase for who I am as a person. And the goal is, long-term goal, is that every single item in there should be personal, it should be meaningful, and it should get people to either ask, wow, what's that? Or, ooh, that, tell me more about that, or that's interesting, or I want one of those. I usually get comments on the plane, some comments on the elephant, the plant people like. One of Saga's owls here, a knitted owl made by Saga's grandmother. That's, of course, cool. And last meeting I was in, somebody commented on this, which was a gift to myself on my 40th birthday. I bought 2 of these because I thought it would be a fun thing to have, and I wanted to give myself something that wasn't crazy expensive, but still cost some money, with a little bit of a luxury item. And somebody noticed that and said, oh, the remote control car, that's very cool. Because we connect with stuff, and if I can craft this in the right way, then it gives me, in this digital world, it's like a suit that I can wear to work, because since most of my work happens now in this place, then this is part of my extended wardrobe. This is part of the image I bring to meetings, to presentations, to whatever. So it matters. And I think a lot of us who are doing our work now in Zoom or Teams or whatever else it is are realizing that how our backgrounds look is a reflection on ourselves. Now, we can choose to ignore it. That's fine. I mean, you can show up to work in a t-shirt. That's great. You can show up in a wrinkled suit. I do that. I do that often. But you at least should know that it's something you're doing on purpose or by design. Now, another little piece of interesting stuff. This here, and again, pardon the mess, this here is a very simple, very cheap piece of tripod. And I use that to record, because then I can put an iPhone here, and then I can kind of plug it in using a $10 app called EpochCam, and suddenly I have a high-level camera for filming my keynotes. So if we do it like this is roughly what it looks like, and then you imagine the keynote, the green screen hanging down, and then you can see the microphone, and voila, you have an excellent studio setup. Even though it's kind of, when you look at it here, it's cluttered and it's messy and there's not a lot of space, because there isn't a lot of space. And this is a nice picture I want to hang somewhere. There's a battery charger. The fan is not in use right now because it's winter, and here's my nice view out on the neighbor's house, and also a little bit of Bonholm countryside. Now, there's a final thing in the room. There's a piece of art from an old study buddy at philosophy, but there's also this bed. Now, why is there a bed in my office? Well, it's there for a couple of reasons. One is sometimes it's actually pretty nice to take a nap, I find. either because I'm exhausted or because I want to lie there reading, listening to music, or I just kind of need a break. So I've had beds or sofas that you could sleep on in my office for a long time, and I've found that very, very useful. Second is, when you have a toddler, it's really nice to have a place where I can place her and she can watch her iPad. Or she can just play around with the things. That's why there's also toys and some of her clothes lying here. And here, another piece of very handheld solution. I need to find a secondary light source. So here is a very, very bright, I think it's like a 6,000 lumen, something like that. It's crazy. It's and it's hanging from a door handle. Now, the reason I'm showing you these things is not because I want to give the impression that I am a completely disorganized and, how shall we say it, messy kind of guy. No, the reason I'm showing you these things is because when we think of innovation, when we think of how to use resources, something like an office, something like a room, in this case, spatial design, then it's very easy to get caught up in things that aren't necessary. It's very easy to think, oh, but we can't do this because, in this case, it'll look terrible. Well, it doesn't matter how it looks. It's not. It would be nice for me if everything was nice and clean, and it will be at some point. But this is not my front stage. This is my backstage. Front stage, people see decent camera setup, okay lighting, okay sound, and what comes out is nice quality video. Backstage looks completely different. And sometimes we judge each other, and we especially judge ourselves by our own backstage instead of by our front stage, while others, we judge them by their front stage. So one point I want to make here is don't be afraid of a messy or a little bit of a chaotic backstage. The second is, it's very easy to discount solutions that work. This works. This serves its purpose. This actually stretches out this green screen in a nice way. This stack of books, it works. This tripod, even though, yes, it's not elegant at all, but what it does is it allows me to stand here and then I can see my slides on that monitor and I can click through them with my clicker and I can still look into the camera because it's at eye level. So it works. Of course, I want to set up something more permanent, something elegant, maybe screwed into the wall or something like that. But it works. It really works, even though it's a very handheld, very minimal solution. And when you have a big thing that needs to be shiny and chrome all the time, if you're running Disneyland, I know you need to minimize this kind of solution, especially where guests can see it. And if you're working with a big team and processes are important and you can't just kind of jury rig things all the time. I understand that. I agree with that. But when you're in a small team, when you're trying out new things, when you are innovating, for lack of a better word, don't be afraid to take the minimal solution that can actually work, even whether it's on a website or at a conference, or in this case, in your own home office. Something that does the job, does the job. Can it do the job better? Yes. Can it do it more safely or more regularly or more kind of elegantly? That's better. That's nice. But first of all, it needs to do the job. And, well, okay, I'll share that point anyway. It's, to me, ironic how much companies and organizations spend on trying to make their minimal viable products, their prototypes, their rough kind of tests, on trying to make them shiny instead of trying to make them work. There's a time for shiny. There's a time for kind of thought through, elegant, designed, proper, all these sorts of things. But when you're just doing something that needs to work to kind of show what it can do or give a glimpse of what it is, don't spend too much time on polishing it. Spend the time instead on getting the message across. And if your takeaway from this is, oh, that Claus guy, he really needs to organize his room, well, then you'd be right. But that would be for my sake. That would be for my daughter's sake, for my girlfriend's sake. That wouldn't be for the people who watch what I'm producing sake, because all of this, they don't get to see. And if you think that what I should prioritize is getting that part better, then you're looking at the wrong tree. You're barking up the wrong tree is the expression. It's okay that things are a little bit crazy backstage if people only get to see front stage. Now, I know, of course, I'm risking all of that by showing you my actual backstage, but that's part of this. That's part of letting you in on a few secrets, or not so secrets, but at least a few points on innovation. So with that said, I want to give you one last kind of look at the room. And then I want to say thank you for listening.